Hi, this is The Rock Podcast, and I'm Denny Somack. I'm a rock historian, producer, and best-selling author. I've been collecting thousands of interviews over the years. My archives are extensive, and we also present newly recorded conversations. That's what we have on this episode. And coincidentally, it's the anniversary of Woodstock, and my guest is one of the performers that played there. Her name is Melanie, and she's just released a new recording as part of a tribute album to Pete Ham. Who is Pete Ham? Well, he's a Welsh singer, songwriter, and guitarist, best known as lead vocalist and composer for the 70s rock band Badfinger, discovered by Paul McCartney and signed to the Beatles' Apple Records. Their hit songs include No Matter What, Day After Day, and Baby Blue. He's also the co-writer of the ballad Without You, a worldwide hit for Harry Nilsson. Y&T Music has released a special album, Shine On, a tribute to Pete Ham, featuring 35 new recordings of songs written by Pete. And Melanie's featured on the song Without You. It was originally a #1 song for Nilsson and later a top 5 song for Mariah Carey. Anyway, I've never had the chance to speak with Melanie until this episode of the Rock Podcast. And she was just fantastic. Her career has been like a Hollywood movie. She was just starting out and was the first artist booked to play Woodstock, almost a year before the concert took place. But basically, Melanie was an unknown when she walked onto the Woodstock stage and sang for 500,000 people. By the end of her set, she was a star. Melanie, welcome to the Rock Podcast.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I have my whole life, I've been interviewing people and producing radio and TV and all sorts of stuff. And I don't know why, but I have never had the opportunity to speak with you, and it's a pleasure. So thank you for doing it.
They've been keeping you from me.
And coincidentally, this is the anniversary of Woodstock, the 54th.
It is 54.
So it's magical. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the new song that's out that you sing. And we're going to, revisit your catalog and find out what you're up to today and all that. I was just talking to somebody who said they saw you recently in Dallas and to say hi. I don't know how long ago that was. Anyway. So welcome to the Rock Podcast. Let's just start. We'll talk about your new stuff and all that. The reason that I contacted you originally was because you are on a new tribute album to Pete Ham. For those that don't know, Pete Ham is one of the great songwriters who unfortunately died at a very young age. He was in a band called Badfinger, which
I know that band well.
Beatles' Apple label, and he wrote some amazing songs, including Without You, which Nilsson covered, and a lot of people have covered, and you were the one that covers it on this tribute album, and you do a fantastic job. So
thank you.
We'll start with that. I know this might be a question, but you sing it with such conviction that we were talking. I don't know, what did you have in your mind? By any chance, were you singing that to your husband?
In great part, yes. Because we were everything. I mean, he was my producer. We were married for 50 years. I had 3 children. We did everything together. I ran every song by him. Lots of lines from songs I ran by him.
Right.
And that song really was a gut wrencher, really.
Well, anyway, you did a great job. It's on a new tribute album, and we'll post all this info and let people know. But I also want to let people know that you're doing something very unique. If you go to Melanie's Facebook page, you recorded this. You are doing a live concert, and you're doing the songs you played at Woodstock, I believe, in the same order.
It's really strange because up until a certain point, I didn't even know what my set was when I performed at Woodstock. And they were doing I think the History Channel came to my house when I was living in Florida, and they recorded a segment and they said, did you ever see your set? And I
Mhm.
said, no, I didn't even know it was recorded.
Right.
And they showed it to me. I started to cry. I didn't even know I had really done a whole set,
Yeah.
and I didn't have it written down. So I
Right.
had no recollection of it off the top of my head.
Right.
I knew I had done Beautiful People because that was the only song
Right.
that was being played on underground radio at the time.
Yeah. I think
So
that was
I when I got the set list, I decided, I think I should do this for everybody who wasn't there, and or for people who were there, they might remember.
yeah. Now I pride myself on being a bit of a rock historian and I sort of know your history and everything, but I started to dig deep and your story is amazing. Uh, you signed on to Woodstock, what, a year before? Tell me how,
Yeah,
and it was like an accident because it were your husband's office. I never heard that story.
right. My yeah, my husband was friends with Artie Kornfeld and Phil Steinberg. They were all in the same building, right down the street from the Brill building.
Right.
And they said they're doing this with Michael Lang. They're trying to raise money for some sort of uh, creative center up in Woodstock. And Elliot Landy is going to do photographs. And I thought it sounded really cool. It was going to be called the Aquarian Exposition. And I thought it sounded nice, like a picnic,
You thought it was a garden party, right?
with arts and crafts. And I'd go shopping, and get some tie dye and love beads and all that. And I was off in England for most of the rest of that year, and I was working on a film score with John Campbell, who from that time he became huge as far as film scores, and I kind of liked the being behind the scenes. I was thinking, yeah, this is a lot safer, lot safer back here. Just writing the songs
Right.
and being hands on in the production, and uh, I was much more comfortable. I didn't really think that I was celebrity material. I didn't seem to look right to myself, and I wasn't a social butterfly. I wasn't easy with people. And I went into a crowded room, and I'd go to the corner. You know, if somebody wanted to talk to me, they had to find me.
And you were one of only three women that were headliners: Joan Baez, of course, Janis Joplin, and you. Now, just remind me, what day and slot were you scheduled for, and what day and slot did you end up? Because I wasn't.
I don't know when I was scheduled, but I arrived the morning of, and we couldn't get through, of course, because the throughway was closing and all kinds of traffic. And I I got to a phone booth and found out that I had to go to a different place, and so I went and I followed directions. It was my mother who took me.
Right.
My Peter was he was in England doing the film score. This was like big stuff, a film score with Olivia Hussey, who had just come off her Romeo and Juliet stellar performance. And so that's what I was doing. And I just came home to do this picnic. And my mom drives me, and we hit traffic, and I get to the place, and it's a motel. And I knew at that point for sure the traffic had a lot to do with what was happening here. And the media was all around the whole hotel. And I walk in the front door, and there's Sly Stone walks by, and I had never met a famous person. I was just, I mean, the most famous person I had met was Rod Stewart, and he wasn't Rod Stewart yet. He
Right.
was still part of the group, the Small Faces,
Right.
and so there. I think it was still called the Small Faces, right?
I think it was the Jeff Beck group because they were supposed to play Woodstock, and the whole band, Ronnie Wood, Rods, everybody showed up but Jeff. Jeff didn't show up, so they didn't play.
Oh. So when I went on, um, I was rushed to a helicopter, and I'm about to get in. And first of all, I thought, why can't we just like go by car? You know, why can't you just? Don't we have a Jeep or something? You know, and he said, no, I can't get there by car. I have to go in the helicopter. So my mother and I are running, and we go into the helicopter, and the guy said, "Who's she?" I said, "That's my mother." And he said, "Oh, no, mom. Sorry, mom. Bye, mom. Only road managers and musicians on the helicopter." So I said goodbye to my mother and went into the helicopter. And I mean, I thought the rush was because I must be on next, you know, so there wasn't like a real schedule.
Yeah.
It for me, there wasn't. Maybe for other people had schedules, but I didn't even have a backstage pass. You know, I didn't have that little thing, that ticket that would
You
be
had to,
worth so much now.
you had to show your
But
license, right?
it was what?
I'm sure you had to show your license to prove who you were.
Uh, no, I had to sing a couple of bars of Beautiful People. It was the only song that anybody had ever heard of me, because Roscoe from WNEW FM was playing it,
Right.
and some college stations and stuff around the country. But so I assumed that as soon as I landed, they were going to put me on stage. Now I'm near hysterical in the helicopter. I look down, and there's this stuff, and what is that? And the pilot says, "It's people." I said, "No, I mean like all that colored stuff, and that's people." I said, "People?" I mean, it's miles and miles of people, wall to wall people. And I thought, that's not possible. And then he points to the football field size stage, and that's the stage. And I have to get out of here. I really have to get out of here. This can't be possible. So I land, and I'm starting to get like heaves. You know? And they told me, you know, here's your, go to that little tent there. And there was a small tent with a box and a dirt floor. And I'm thinking any minute, you know, Richie Havens is in his, I don't know, 50th minute of freedom, which came out of Motherless Child.
Right.
And I knew, I didn't really even know him.
Right.
I knew of him. He was like the Pope of Greenwich Village, you know. He was, Richie Havens was the big deal of Greenwich Village. And so I assumed they were going to get me on, right, but it didn't happen. And all day I waited in that tent. And every once in a while, someone would come in and say, "You're on next." And then they would say, "Never mind." Or sometimes they didn't say, "Never mind." Sometimes I would hear someone else performing. I knew it wasn't me. And this went on all day until it started to rain, and it was nighttime.
Yeah.
And Ravi Shankar had gone on, and I think it was Wavy Gravy had made some kind of announcement about Hog Farm. His collective was passing out candles, and I sort of absorbed that message of inspiration. I didn't really remember exactly what he said, but it was something inspirational about the rain and keeping the rain away. And I thought, well, it's raining. It's really raining now. I think people are going to go home. I mean, certainly anybody with any sense would go home.
Right.
And I thought, they're going to go home and this whole thing will be called off and I can go back to England and be invisible again. And just in that reverie, someone came and said, "You're on next." And it turned out the incredible string band was supposed to go on at that exact time.
Right.
But they refused because of the rain, which was sensible. They knew about electricity. I didn't. They were veterans. I was not. So, okay. And I lost, I couldn't breathe. I was sure I was going to be facing my certain doom.
Right.
I really, really did. I was by myself. I mean, there were three women, Joan Baez, me, and Janis Joplin, but Joan Baez was a star. Janis Joplin had a band, and who was Melanie? And that's how I felt. I felt like,
Right.
who is Melanie? How am I going to possibly? I know three chords on guitar. I mean, I imply a lot with those three chords, but I didn't feel like it was even a possibility that I could stand in front of that many people. I had never performed in front of more than a couple of hundred people in my whole life.
Right. Right.
And again, I did a show with Rod Stewart and the Faces, but it was before
Right.
it was such a big deal. And there I was, having to do that. So then I had an out of body experience, which I will just gloss over unless you want to go into it.
Go
But
into it. We like to hear great stories.
so, yeah, I mean, for a very long time, I didn't talk about it because it was so profound, but it was so out there, and everybody always made joke, "Oh, what were you smoking? You must have drank orange Kool-Aid or something." I said, no. In fact, I was probably one of the only people at Woodstock who was completely straight. I did. I was too. First of all, I was a vegetarian.
Right.
I was like, only organic if I could possibly. Um, I was very strict with myself, and I wouldn't even think of smoking or altering myself in any way with anything. And so, I was there, and I totally walked on that plank. And at one point, I was not in my body. I watched Melanie walk on the stage. I watched her sit down. And then at some point, I came back to myself. And I always thought, it was such an astounding experience. And to happen in front of all those people, I always sensed that I went over really well. I resonated with the crowd in an amazing way.
Mm.
And beyond anything I could ever have imagined or believed could be possible. And yeah, I thought they'd either be leaving, scrambling, going to sleep, doing anything but watching me. Uh, and then there I was, with all these people in front of me, and we're resonating, and there was this. I'm watching the hillside light up with candles in the rain. So, yeah, people sometimes say, "Oh, I saw you do candles in the rain at Woodstock." No, we
You
didn't.
hadn't written it yet, right?
Hadn't written it yet, but I get the point. Memory is a funny thing. It's a really funny thing.
All right. Well, we're going to ask you about different songs, but since we're talking about candles, tell us about the writing of that. We all know it was inspired.
Yeah, well, as far as I remember, I had part of that song in my head, leaving, lay down, lay down. Candles in the Rain, Men Can Live as Brothers, Candles in the Rain, and Little Sisters of the Sun, lit candles. I mean, I just had all these lines were, swimming around in my head. And the chorus, the anthemic part, was in my head leaving Woodstock.
Right.
And I have so little memory of how I got back with my mother. she had to take me home, so but I have people say, when did you see your mother? I don't remember. I just got off the stage, and next I was on panel discussions with anthropologists, discussing the significance of this event. I was so ill-equipped, to be articulating anything,
How
there are
old are you?
people,
You're 19?
yeah, around there. So, and I was a very young, when you're an introvert, which I was very much always an introvert, um, you tend to age slower because you're just with yourself. You don't have a big peer group who's making those steps, you know, uh, getting older and stuff. So I was just, I was a kid. I was a kid. And what am I doing here, with all these grown-ups?
Did you stay to see any of the other acts, or you left immediately? What happened?
No, I didn't see anyone. I had ventured out of my little tent once during that day, and I didn't have an artist pass. So one, I guess, security Hell's Angel type said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Oh, I'm supposed to sing." And this was really my moment when I could have escaped, I could, but there's some part of you that knows what you're supposed to do. And I said, "No, I sing." He said, "Yeah, yeah, that's nice. What do you sing?" And I said, and I sang Beautiful People. He said, "Oh yeah, I think I know that song. Right. Okay. Well, go back to your tent because you're not supposed to be here. I was gonna have to throw you back into the crowd." And so I went back to my tent and didn't leave for the rest of the day. But the other recollection I had was uh, I developed a really, I guess it was from nerves, a bronchial cough, a deep, deep cough. And apparently Joan Baez from the upper echelon tent heard me, and she sent over an assistant or someone with little flower thing around her head, and she said, "Excuse me, but Joan heard you coughing and thought you might like this." And it was a pot of tea with lemon and honey.
Mm.
You cannot imagine. It was, I said, "Joan, Joan, I mean, Joan Baez, Joan?" And she said, "Yes, she heard the coughing and thought you sounded like you really could use this. So she sent this over." The goddess, the goddess heard me suffering and sent this over. And that was my warm, cuddly Woodstock moment up until I hit the stage.
So how long after the festival did you write Lay Down Candles?
It was rolling around in my thoughts for a couple of weeks. And then it just came because somehow those two parts didn't come together, didn't become a song. It really hardly is a song. I mean, it's a chant and it's some verses and held together with a little bridge. And so, I mean, it wasn't a formulated song. Um, I had written it by the time we had gone to San Francisco to do, I think uh, I was doing Fillmore,
Mhm.
and we got to meet Bill Graham and people. And I was thinking that I finished the song and I had uh, I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if the Edwin Hawkins singers, because they were on Buddha Records at the time, and they had just come off that hit, Oh Happy Day. So Peter, he was he was he was the P.T. Barnum of of he could talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place, and I was not. So he got Edwin Hawkins on the phone and said, "Oh, Melanie, Edwin Hawkins wants to talk to you." And I went, "Oh my God!" So I, you know, said hi, and he said, "Yeah, your husband was saying you had a song. Um, I want to ask you a few questions. Does the song mention the Lord?" And I thought, no, it doesn't. And he said, does it mention Jesus? No, no, not really. Now I knew this was a quiz, uh, oh, I'm sure it's a beautiful song, but I'm so sorry, but we only do religious songs praising the Lord and such. So we probably wouldn't be able to do that. So I took that as a no, right? Of course, my husband did not take that as a no. He he decided we were going to, but I knew it was a spiritual song, it was appropriate for them to do it. May not have literally been appropriate, but it was in essence very appropriate. Right. So we went, Peter said, "Oh, we're going to go and see the group. They want to do the song." And I said, no, Edwin Hawkins said no. He said, no, he changed his mind. I said, "Oh, really? Didn't sound like he was going to change his mind." He said, "Yeah, he's changing his mind." Um, so I went, I had my guitar, and we had some studio time booked to do some other songs. And I'm not sure if we were going to do Lay Down or not, but we had some studio time booked with Freddie Cretera at the Pacific Studios out in San Mateo. Right. So we went to the auditorium where the Edwin Hawkins singers were rehearsing, and we opened the door of the auditorium. They're in the middle of a song, and little by little, like, they all look back at, "Who's that?" "What's that?" And I realized Peter, they did not know I was coming here, and I was going to kill him. And he runs down the aisle toward Edwin Hawkins playing the piano, and they're talking, and Peter's waving his arms and gesturing, and Edwin Hawkins is shaking his head, "No, no, no." And then Peter waves me in, "Come on down here." And I'm thinking, "Oh my God." And all these voices, there are 46 people on stage singing, and uh this was so not me, to be aggressive like that. So Peter said, "Sing the song, Melanie, sing the song so we can hear it." And so I did, and I started singing the chorus. And by the second time I sang the chorus, they were starting to sing with me. It was really miraculous almost. And Edwin Hawkins just put his arms up. "Oh, okay, I guess I'm getting a message." No. So they came to the studio, uh, the Sun's Pacific studio, and we piled in, and I went over the song, basically the chords and the key and everything. And the percussionist from oh, what's his name? uh,
From a
you
San
know,
Francisco band or
yeah, Santana,
Montana?
the Santana percussionist. He was there, and Edwin Hawkins and me on the guitar, and I started to sing the song, and Peter pressed the button, and we started recording, and it was the first take.
Wow.
I know it. When you think about that, I was in the room with them singing, and they were able to isolate my voice enough so that we could do that. And it was miraculous. I just recently got in touch with the woman who ran the studio manager, and her name is Bonnie. And she said she said they talked about that forever, and it was one of those moments in the studio that nobody will ever forget. And of course, me and the Edwin Hawkins singers, and later on Edwin Hawkins when I talked to him, and I always expected that we would like go on the road together, but that wasn't to be. I did a few performances. There was a TV show that I think is on YouTube, me in Holland and the Edwin Hawkins singers there. And it was truly, it was the music, it was purely the music.
Do you remember the first time you played it in concert, after recording it?
The first time in concert that I did that song?
Mhm.
No.
No
I don't
problem.
remember the first
No
time,
problem.
but
All right,
I
great.
remember the time when I was on stage with them.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
Right.
That was really powerful. It was one of those songs that I always wanted to have backup vocals, that was but now I do it, and I imply 46 gospel singers.
Do you remember the first time you heard it on the radio?
Oh my God, that was a miracle. That was like we were coming back from New York. We lived in New Jersey, right over the bridge, and we had the car radio on, and all of a sudden it came on. I was like, oh my God. And yeah, that was the first mainstream hit record, because Beautiful People was like what they called a turntable hit. And of course, a thing like that doesn't happen now because there's just too much control over what's on the radio. But it was, I had never had a mainstream hit, and it was on heavy rotation, which meant they're going to play it a few times during the playtime, and it was at drive time, so that was like a big deal, playing that record at drive time. It was almost like that can't be me, that can't be me.
All right, so tell me about Look What They've Done to My Song, Mom. What that relates to and when you wrote that.
Let me get one of these little throat things.
Oh, get her some tea.
Oh, all right. You got it. Wow,
With lemon and honey.
it's an amazing interview. All right. Okay.
So, yeah, Look What They've Done to My Song. That was pretty literal, because now Peter was the producer, and I would write a song and hear it a certain way, and then Peter would translate that into how is it going to be a hit record. And we had big riffs about that, like I wanted to keep it more how I heard it in my head, and he would go for the gusto, and so we were working on a song, and I don't know which one it was, but I was very unhappy, and I mean, it would be like I never felt the song really lived, before. If I didn't perform it a lot with in front of an audience, I didn't feel like it was a real song yet. It had to start breathing. So, um, of course, the problem was, uh, first of all, Peter was addicted to recording and being in studios and having hit records. And so that's what he likes. So I'm trying to think what song it was. I can't remember, but this was a very literal song. I was actually thinking, look what they did to my song. Look what they done to my song. They tied it up in a plastic bag and turned it upside down. And of course, it's such a great analogy for so many things, but I wasn't thinking that. This was totally literal. And I was in the vocal booth, and Peter said he heard me singing it because I was just sitting there writing a song. Look what they done to my song. and I finished it, and he recorded it that night. Talk about a song not living in front of people before, but it was recorded that night.
I want to remind people that you've done something that's very hard to do. You took somebody else's song, Rolling Stones song, Ruby Tuesday, and you made it your own.
Yeah, well, the thing about Ruby Tuesday was, it was me. I was Ruby Tuesday. I don't know why I thought that, but I felt that it was like it was the song I should have written, and Ruby Tuesday. I just felt like that was me, and so when I heard it, of course, I didn't know the chords the right way, so I just kind of made it my own. I did make it my own.
Yeah,
In fact, many musicians after the fact would say, "Oh no, that's not the right chord." And I said, "I know, but that's the one I do." And that's the one we used on the record. So we kept it.
You ever meet any of the Stones throughout your career and get any feedback?
No, I went to an after concert party, but again, being a shy person, I wasn't the person to go for photo ops and stuff. But I did have a photo of Mick Jagger with a button, and it says, "Here, Melanie's Ruby Tuesday any day."
All right.
And but that's as close as I got to having a friendship.
Tell me about Peace Will Come.
The what?
Peace.
Oh, peace will come. Well, I was truly a pacifist. I mean, under no circumstance did I think we should ever agree to go to war. I mean, I was very, very strongly a pacifist. And it was my response to the Vietnam War. And by the time the song came out, the war had just ended. And I did on one of my albums, it's the live at, I think, Carnegie Hall. it said it's really nice to sing an unnecessary peace song. um, but again, it wasn't. I mean, I don't know if it was a hit or not, but I mean, a lot of people knew it.
Okay.
But we were. I was always on the road and always performing, and in the studio. So I don't. Yeah, I would be, finishing one record, it would be on the radio, and I'm recording another one.
Melanie, I don't know if you know this, but you must. I mean, you're one of the only females, because I know stuff got re-released, to have 3 songs on the Hot 100 at the same time.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Again, at the time, the statistic kind of flew over my head. I didn't think of me as a person who achieved any sort of. I was darting bullets, really dodging the bullet, because for some reason here, and this might have something to do with why you and I never got together. I was, when I first began, I was coming out of life as an oddball. I didn't have friends. I was too quirky and weird to be one of the girls in high school. I was just a by myself person, and I'd go home and just be grateful that I got through another day and sit in my room and sing and write songs, and with the door closed, nobody heard me or mentioned that I sang and wrote songs. So I think I was not even slightly believing that I could achieve what I had already achieved.
Now, you did something, you leave Buddha Records, your husband and you start your own label, and you have a #1 song with Brand New Key. How did that come about?
Oh my God. It's irony, extreme irony, because of Buddha Records, I felt so restrained, so boxed in a sort of package that, to me, it wasn't me at all. And it was during that time that, like papers like the Rolling Stone, where I was going to be saying, they were like my people, because I was an oddball, right? I was the fringe. I was not like mainstream anything. And so when the first review came out on Laydown, they panned it. I mean, they said that the Edwin Hawkins singers are great, but when Melanie starts to sing, I sound like fingernails against a chalkboard. And it hurt me emotionally, really hurt me. I thought, these are my people, why are they saying this? And I thought that was my group, the Rolling Stone and Underground Press. But there was like a move or an agenda or something, and I wasn't quite fitting into anything. I didn't quite fit into the mainstream, and I didn't fit into, but whatever it was, it felt like I was being targeted. They had done this huge article, and I thought, oh, great, I'm in Rolling Stone finally. They're gonna say nice things, but they didn't. They had me on a opposite Bobby Sherman.
Okay.
And kind of they were making it sort of a comparison.
I forget Bobby Sherman. I don't want to hear about Bobby Sherman. I want to hear the writing of Brand New Key.
So when and I thought this maybe had to do with Buddha Records and the way they were perceived, because it was considered a bubblegum label. Right. And I thought maybe that was it. in part. But our time with them was up, the contract was over, and I thought we should start our own label. And I had no idea that would fly in the face of mainstream record industry. I had just about slapped the face of every major label because I was an artist, the first in the United States, by the way, to open an independent label. The Beatles were the only other group, as far as I know, and that was in the UK. But
Tell me about the song.
Brand New Kate, yes. So, ironically, coming out of all of that, our first record that we released I wrote this song. It was a one-off, cute little song. I liked it, but when Peter got a hold of it, he made it a hit. And I knew that it was going to do me to be cute for the rest of my life. And it did. And in fact, it even earned me the term one-hit wonder. Even though I had hits previous, I became a one-hit wonder with Brand New Key. And, that was, I kind of became a reactionary against it, even though it was my own label and it went to #1. And I should have been deliriously happy with that. But being a little introvert and kind of very self-analytical, and you live in your own little dark world, and I was living in my own little dark world, and very unhappy that the Rolling Stone was anti-Melanie.
But what was the incident that?
The incident.
I mean, you were.
Yes, I had been a vegetarian. I know this is a funny place to start, but what you are, what you eat, Adele Davis. So it was I was a vegetarian, very staunch, very militant, almost vegetarian. I don't eat anything with a beating heart, and things like that. And I wasn't doing well physically. I kept getting sick. And so I went to a health ranch in Escondido, California, and it was run by Dr. Bernard Jensen. And Dr. Bernard Jensen was what I think he was called the father of iridology in America. And he had brought the study of studying the irises to America. And he said, I think a fast would be a good idea to start out. So I went on a fast, and I didn't want to stop fasting. I kept going. I was on 27 days on nothing but water, distilled water. And I was doing what they call the faster's strut, which is, you walk 1 inch and then 3 seconds goes by and then you walk another inch. He said, it's time to stop the fast. And I thought, no, I think I'm just getting there, And he said, no, Melanie, I really think it's time that you go back to eating food. And, so I thought, okay. And we talked, and he said that he thought that I needed animal substance, even though he was a vegetarian, and thought that was a good idea for certain types of people. But he said that I wasn't that type. And he thought that I needed to be grounded a little bit with animal substance, as he called it. And that is called meat. And so I thought about that.
And I get to Brand New Key. I'm trying to
it's part of it. It's the reason.
Okay.
This is it. I promise it's going there. So I break the fast. I go home. He said my perfect diet will occur to me because I'm so cleansed, and I'll know what to do. but he said, try to include meat a couple of times a week. And I thought, oh, no, I don't think I could do that. Anyway, I was at a flea market, 5 a.m. with the flashlight, what's your dealer's price? I'd come home with a big bag of stuff, and we were coming home. I had, been home maybe 3 or 4 days, and I had broken the fast the way he said, on partially cooked grated carrot and partially cooked grated zucchini and maybe a spoon of juice. And I did all of that. And on the way home from this flea market, it was Englishtown, New Jersey. It was that flea market. It was when people brought their junk to sell. So I'm on my way home, and I get a whiff of something. I'm hungry, and I smelled something, and I said, oh, let's go there. And we pull in, and it's a McDonald's. And this is absolutely a true story. I always go in the car with a little guitar. I had a small hop guitar, and it's high strung, and it's just something like to feel out chords and stuff. I went into the McDonald's. I got the whole combo, the big whatever Mac and the fries and the fiberglass milkshake. And I no sooner finished that last bite of hamburger when that whole whoosh of memory came back to me of learning how to ride my bicycle, and my dad holding the back of the bike, and me saying, are you holding on? Are you holding on? And falling as soon as I knew he wasn't, that. And roller skating down Suicide Hill, where I broke my front tooth. And my second tooth, my mom, was so mad at me because she was so proud of my perfect teeth. And that whole memory of all of that came back to me with that bite of hamburger. And I thought of, bicycles and roller skates and that whole time. And I wrote the song. I absolutely had the whole song written. I was in this van with my big bag of stuff from the Englishtown market, my bag of McDonald's leftover garbage, and I had that song totally done. I got home, I was playing it on the side of the bed, and Peter came over and said, what's that? I said, oh, just, some little silly thing that came into my head while I was coming home. He said, oh, do that part again. I got a brand new. I said, uh-oh. I said, no, Peter. I said, that can't be. You can't, no. He said, just play that part over again. And I did. He said, Melanie, that's a hit. And I knew it was true. And we cut it, and it was out on Neighborhood Records. Was it?
Okay. So let me just
I told you I would get there.
So I got to remind people that they can go to your Facebook page and, of course, see the concert, the songs you played at Woodstock.
Yes, the concert and Magic Bus. I have a new CD.
Right.
We could talk about that or whatever.
Yeah. That's just came out. That was something you did back in the early 70s on that show Magic Bus.
Yeah, it was. The show wasn't called Magic Bus. It was a radio show, and the DJ was Curtis Schwartz. And again, coming out of that My People era, and there were people who just discounted me because they were predisposed to believing whatever they heard. Oh, here she is, one hit wonder, and she's pretty, and she probably can't sing, and she's probably not very talented, but whatever it was. So I went on that show, and I could sense he was one of those, he was discounting me. So we recorded, it was an interview and just a spontaneous, I sang whatever came out, whatever I was in the mood to do. But I knew that I knew he was gonna attack me if he didn't think I was any good. And something magic happened on the magic bus. Halfway through the interview, I got the feeling that he got me, and that I got to see him change his mind.
Melanie, you have to stop calling yourself a one-hit wonder. You've had a lot of hits. I mean,
I know.
you know how many
No,
people
I didn't call
kill
myself one.
to have
They
the number
did.
of hits
They
that you've
did.
had? I mean, you have so many great songs. You're still out there. You're doing concerts now and then, and people can go to your Facebook page, see the concert. The new
Yes.
version of "Without You" is on a new tribute album. And do you have any other immediate plans?
During the whole lockdown, etc., I wrote a tremendous amount of songs, and Bo and I are working on that, and we're working on a boxed set that should be coming out. I probably shouldn't even talk about that yet, but
Okay.
I have a site called Patreon, which
Okay.
would be really wonderful if anybody was inclined to further support me. I'm totally independent,
Right.
completely out of the grips of all of it. And that's not that easy.
Well, I've done a few records in my time, and if this were the old days, I would sign you immediately and
Well,
find that
thank
song
you.
for you.
I have no shortage of songs, but I'm always up for, a new song here and there. You know what I just discovered? And I haven't recorded it yet, but all these years later, I found Let It Be.
Right.
I discovered Let It Be. Now this is a funny thing because, I had heard that song 100 times, but one day I sat down with my guitar and played the chords that I would play, and started singing it, and it became a whole other song, and it's amazing how life can be breathed into a song that because you have a, a vision of, or it interprets something deep inside you and it never occurred to me to do that song ever before, but I do want to put that out for sure.
I'm
And
sure.
yeah, lots of new songs. I have a song that is called Ruin. I'm a ruin, ancient temple, a shrine to the doomed. I'm a ruin, like the ones in Peru. The Mayans left a message like the writing on the wall. First its rise, then its fall. Some are conquered. What stands tall is the ruin.
We've been over an hour, and I haven't gotten to half the questions I wanted to ask you.
Oh, well, we need to do it then.
We'll do a part 2 sometime because this has been great. Your stories are fantastic.
Thank you.
I know people know you from all these songs, but and they know you played Woodstock, but we didn't get the chance to talk about the Isle of Wight and all the other stuff.
Oh, right.
About, but
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, I got to save it. So that's fine. But weren't you
That's
voted female vocalist of the year in '72 or something like that?
Right. Oh, and I won an Emmy.
Yeah, I mean,
I won an Emmy.
I didn't know any of this stuff.
No, a lot of people don't.
You had a
we
bad
need to educate. We
publicist.
need to educate them.
You had a bad publicist, so I hopefully will re-educate them. And your son Bo is very helpful in setting this up. He's very helpful.
You rock, Denny. You're awesome.
Here's my Emmy.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go. Now, what did you get that for?
I wrote a song called "The First Time I Loved Forever." It was the theme for the TV show Beauty and the Beast.
Right. Okay.
And I won an Emmy. I didn't even show up for the Emmys because I didn't think I had a chance in hell. But and not only that, I was, I didn't like the way I looked, and didn't want to
Fantastic.
do it.
You look fantastic.
Thank you.
And your
Thanks a lot.
voice, I mean, you sound fantastic. This new recording that you did of Without You.
Thank you.
I hope it's
Yeah, my son produced the whole thing.
right.
He did
Mom did everything. Mom did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Denny.
No, so it's been a pleasure.
That's Melanie, the First Lady of Woodstock, discussing some highlights of her career. Look for her new recording of Without You. Thanks for listening to the Rock Podcast. We're available on all the usual platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, and we have a video version on YouTube as well. You can also sign up to our channel, and you'll be notified when a new episode is released. It's free, no charge. The Rock Podcast is now the #1 podcast for classic rock, so I thank you for listening. Find us at the website, therockpodcast.com. Also, we have a Facebook page, and you can send your comments, questions, suggestions, whatever, to me at hello@therockpodcast.com. That's hello@therockpodcast.com. Also, check out one of our sponsors, AuthenticRockCollectibles.com. I'm Denny Somack, and that's it for this episode.